Russia's tanks have been crumbling like tin cans in Ukraine, Germany's mighty Leopard 2 crushes everything in its path. Its 120mm cannon tears through armor, while advanced systems detect enemies miles away. With unmatched speed, agility, and nearly impenetrable armor, it outclasses anything on the battlefield. Will this tank render Russia's weapons useless? Will this steel giant shift the balance of global power and redefine modern warfare? Join us as we uncover everything about Germany's $3 billion laser system tank. After the Cold War, tensions between East and West were rising. In 1963, Germany and America launched a joint tank project, the MBT-70, aiming to create a super tank that could outmatch anything from the Soviet Union. However, by 1967, the project was plagued with skyrocketing costs and technical failures. Germany could not wait, so military leaders turned to Porsche to explore upgrades for their Leopard 1 tank. Porsche engineers named their study the Vergold-Eder Leopard, or Gilded Leopard. They envisioned game-changing features like an automatic loader, a secondary cannon, and even a camera on an extendable pole to scout enemies from cover. Around the same time, Germany launched experimental Entwicklung, meaning experimental development, setting aside 25 million German marks, later increased to 32 million. Krauss-Maffei led the project, working alongside Porsche on the hull and Wegmann on the turret. By 1969, 2 test vehicles, nicknamed Keiler, meaning wild boar, were built. These were not just improved Leopard 1 tanks, but platforms for testing new technology. The goal was to ensure accurate shots at 2,000 meters, over a mile, even while moving over rough terrain. Meanwhile, the MBT-70 project was collapsing. One major flaw was placing the driver inside the turret, making operations disorienting. Germany pulled out in 1969 and attempted a last-ditch modification, but the effort never advanced beyond a wooden model. In 1971, Germany decided to abandon failed projects and focus on the promising Keiler design. The tank was officially named Leopard 2, with Paul Werner Krapke leading its development. 2 versions were planned, the gun-armed Leopard 2K and the missile-launching Leopard 2 FK. That year, Germany ordered 17 prototypes, though only 16 were built, for testing various configurations. 10 had 105mm guns, while 7 featured larger 120mm smoothbore guns. 2 hulls used experimental suspensions inspired by the MBT-70 with fewer road wheels. These prototypes introduced advanced features like precise rangefinders, stabilized guns for accurate firing on the move, and spaced armor for extra protection. By 1973, the tank's design kept evolving. Engineers developed a sharply angled turret, nicknamed the Shrew turret for its distinctive shape. Then the Yom Kippur War in the Middle East revealed a crucial lesson. Tanks needed much stronger armor to survive modern battlefields. In response, Leopard 2 was redesigned with heavier but more effective protection. Despite early struggles, constant innovation turned Leopard 2 into one of the most successful tanks in history. After years of testing, tweaking, and going back to the drawing board, the Leopard 2 was finally taking shape. But could German engineers turn their ambitious designs into a real tank that armies around the world would want to buy? The answer came in January 1977, when Germany made its first official order for the new tank. Instead of rushing into mass production, they wisely started with just 3 test tanks, 2 complete with turrets and 1 hull, to make sure everything worked perfectly. These pre-series vehicles arrived in 1978 with extra armor on the front, giving engineers one last chance to find and fix any problems. One of these test tanks went straight to the German Army School in Munster, where soldiers, not just engineers, could try it out in realistic conditions. Their feedback was crucial in making sure the final design would work well in the hands of regular tank crews. Satisfied with the results, Germany placed a massive order in September 1977 for 1,800 Leopard 2 tanks to be built in 5 big batches. This was no small project. It would take years to complete. The main company, Krauss-Maffei, could not handle such a huge order alone, so Maschinenbau Kiel was brought in to build nearly half the tanks. The first batch would include 380 tanks, with just 6 tanks scheduled for delivery in 1979, 114 for 1980, 180 for 1981, and then 300 tanks each year after that. On October 25, 1979, a historic moment arrived when the very first production Leopard 2 rolled off the assembly line. By 1982, workers at both factories had completed all 380 tanks from the first batch. Krauss-Maffei built 209 of them, with chassis numbers 10,001 to 10,210, while Maschinenbau Kiel delivered 171 with chassis numbers 20,001 to 20,172. Some of these early tanks did not have all the planned equipment. The special night vision thermal sights were not ready yet, so they got older image intensifiers instead. When the thermal sights finally became available, crews went back and installed them in the earlier tanks. Germany's appetite for these powerful new tanks kept growing. After the original 5 batches, they ordered 3 more, bringing Germany's total to an impressive 2,125 Leopard 2 tanks. The 6th batch of 150 tanks was ordered in June 1987 and built between January 1988 and May 1989. The 7th batch added 100 more tanks between May 1988 and April 1990. The final German order for 75 tanks was completed between January 1991 and March 1992. During the height of Cold War tensions, German factories were churning out 16 Leopard 2 tanks every month, about 1 every other day. Even though production slowed after the Cold War ended, the companies kept their equipment and skilled workers ready, just in case they needed to ramp up production again quickly. By the early 1990s, the Leopard 2 had transformed from an experimental project into one of the most successful tank designs in history. With thousands of Leopard 2 tanks now spread across the globe, many wondered what exactly made this German machine so special. What secret technologies and engineering tricks gave the Leopard 2 its fearsome reputation on the battlefield? At the heart of every great tank lies its armor, the protective shell that keeps the crew alive when enemy shells come flying. The Leopard 2's armor is not just thick steel like tanks of the past. Instead, it uses a special sandwich of different materials called spaced multi-layer armor. This clever design combines steel plates of different hardness levels with elastic materials and non-metal components. German engineers studied exactly how enemy anti-tank weapons work, especially the dangerous shaped charges that can burn through normal armor. They discovered that using layers of different materials could disrupt and weaken these deadly jets of super hot metal before they could reach the crew inside. The protection on the front of the Leopard 2 Alpha 4 is about 800 millimeters thick, which is nearly 3 feet of armor. Later versions like the 2 Alpha 5 got even better protection with wedge-shaped armor pieces that increased the thickness to 1,500 millimeters. These angled armor blocks make enemy shells glance off instead of hitting straight on. Experts estimate the 2 Alpha 4's frontal armor provides protection equal to 590 to 690 millimeters of solid steel against tank shells and 600 millimeters against shaped charges. The newer 2 Alpha 6 is even tougher, with protection equal to 920 to 940 millimeters of steel on the turret. But armor is not perfect. If a shell does break through, the Leopard 2 has another trick: compartments. The ammunition is stored in special areas separated from the crew. If shells in the turret explode, blow-off panels in the roof direct the blast upward, away from the crew. However, there is one weakness. The 27 shells stored in the hull do not have this protection, which could cause a catastrophic explosion if hit. Companies like IBD, Dyson-Roth, and ROEG have created add-on armor packages with names like Mexus, AMAP, and SidePro ATR to make the tank even harder to destroy. Some Leopard 2 tanks also have slat armor, metal cages that defeat rocket-propelled grenades before they can hit the main armor. The Leopard 2's main punch comes from its massive 120mm smoothbore gun made by Rheinmetall. Unlike older guns with rifling, this smooth-walled gun can fire special dart-like shells with incredible accuracy. The newer Lima 55 version of this gun is longer than the original Lima 44, giving shells more speed and power. These shells are amazing feats of engineering. The Delta Mike 53 round can punch through 750 millimeters of armor steel at 2,000 meters. That is like shooting through 2.5 feet of solid steel from over a mile away. The gun can even fire the Israeli Lima Alpha Hotel Alpha Tango missile to hit targets up to 6,000 meters away. The tank carries 42 shells, a total of 27 in the hull, and 15 in a special compartment in the back of the turret. It also has 2 machine guns, one next to the main gun and another on top for shooting at aircraft or infantry. What makes the Leopard 2 truly special is its ability to hit targets while moving over rough ground. This magic happens thanks to the Echo Mike Echo Sierra 15 fire control system. It combines a laser rangefinder that measures the exact distance to targets and a thermal camera that sees in the dark by detecting heat. A powerful computer takes information about the target's distance, the tank's speed, the weather, and even the Earth's rotation to calculate the perfect firing solution in seconds. The beating heart of this 60-ton beast is the Mike Tango uniform Mike Bravo 873 Kilo Alpha 501 engine, a massive 12-cylinder diesel that produces 1,500 horsepower. That is about the same power as 15 family cars combined. This powerful engine pushes the tank to speeds of 68 kilometers per hour on roads and gives it a range of 500 kilometers before needing to refuel. All these technologies work together to create a nearly perfect balance of protection, firepower, and mobility. But the real question remained: how would these sophisticated machines perform when the shooting started for real? With all its impressive technology and clever design features, the Leopard 2 looked unstoppable on paper. But as any soldier will tell you, real combat is different from tests and training. In 1984, German engineers began making important changes to their prize tank. The Leopard 2 Alpha 4 version added a digital ballistic computer that made firing even more accurate. They also improved the fire extinguishing system to better protect crews if something went wrong. By 1989, German military planners realized that tanks, like all technology, needed regular updates to stay ahead of the competition. They launched an ambitious program with a very German name, Kampfwertsteigerung, which simply means combat value improvement. This program had 3 main goals: better armor, a more powerful gun, and improved electronics. The first major upgrade came with the Leopard 2 Alpha 5 in 1995. The most visible change was the new arrow-shaped armor on the turret. These angular blocks weren't just for show, they were carefully designed to deflect incoming shells. Between 1995 and 1998, Germany upgraded 225 of their tanks to this new standard. They liked the results so much that they converted another 125 tanks between 1999 and 2002. The next big jump came with the Leopard 2 Alpha 6, which featured a longer gun barrel, the Lima 55 instead of the older Lima 44. This longer barrel gave shells more speed and hitting power, making the tank even deadlier at long ranges. Between 2001 and 2005, Germany converted 225 tanks to this new standard. The third planned stage would have been truly revolutionary, replacing the entire turret with a new design featuring a massive 140mm gun and an autoloader to replace the human loader. Engineers built and tested a prototype with this huge gun, but the project was canceled in 1995. With the Cold War over, the threat of massive tank battles in Europe had faded, and the cost seemed hard to justify. While these upgrades were happening, the peaceful 1990s gave way to a more dangerous world. For the first time, Leopard 2 tanks would face real combat conditions. The baptism of fire came in Kosovo, where German peacekeeping forces deployed their Leopard 2s to keep warring factions apart. Though they didn't face direct combat, these missions taught valuable lessons about operating heavy tanks in difficult terrain in unstable regions. The real test came in the mountains of Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks. Dutch, Danish, and Canadian forces brought their Leopard 2s to this harsh environment as part of the International Security Assistance Force. Many experts had claimed that Afghanistan, with its rugged mountains and narrow valleys, was no place for heavy tanks. The Leopard 2 proved them wrong. Canadian tankers found that their Leopard 2s could go places other vehicles couldn't, providing crucial fire support for infantry and firefights with Taliban fighters. The tanks' excellent optics could spot hidden enemies, and their powerful guns could destroy fortified positions with a single shot. But Afghanistan also revealed limitations. The original tanks weren't well protected against the buried bombs, called improvised explosive devices, that became the Taliban's weapon of choice. This led to new variants like the Leopard 2 Alpha 4 Mike and 2 Alpha 6 Mike, with added armor on the bottom of the hull to better survive mine blasts. Engineers also developed special armor kits for urban fighting, where threats could come from any direction. The Leopard 2 Alpha 4 Mike can and Leopard 2 PSO added armor modules along the sides of the turret and hull, plus metal cage armor at the back to defeat rocket-propelled grenades that could penetrate up to 600 millimeters of steel. These combat experiences transformed the Leopard 2 from a tank designed to fight Soviet armies on European plains into a versatile fighting vehicle that could handle peacekeeping, counterinsurgency, and urban combat. With each mission, crews and engineers learned new lessons that fed into further improvements. But as effective as these midlife upgrades were, the world of military technology never stands still. By 2014, newer threats were emerging that would demand even more advanced solutions. While the Leopard 2 proved itself through decades of upgrades and limited combat experience, a new question emerged on the horizon. How would this battle-tested tank adapt to the rapidly changing warfare of the 21st century? In 2014, a new chapter began for Germany's famous tank. The Leopard 2 A7 rolled out to soldiers, showing off its latest improvements. Only 20 tanks came in this first batch, but they marked the start of something new. The 2A7 was not just another upgrade. Engineers gave it better armor on the bottom to protect against hidden bombs and mines that fighters often use in modern conflicts. They also added special holders where extra armor plates could be attached when needed, especially for fighting in cities. The 2A7 can handle today's threats better than any version before it, said one German defense official when the tanks were delivered. Even before these new tanks reached soldiers, German planners were already thinking about what to change next. They wanted to keep the tank's famous mobility while making it even more protected. They also started working on better cameras and vision systems to help tank crews see the battlefield more clearly. But a challenge appeared in 2015. Reports claimed that the special tungsten bullets used by Leopard 2 tanks could not break through the armor of Russia's newest T-90 tanks or their upgraded T-80s. German weapons makers quickly began developing new, more powerful bullets specifically for the 2A7 version. At the same time, the company Rheinmetall started work on something even bigger, a new 130mm gun to replace the standard 120mm gun on Leopard tanks. This bigger gun would be 50% more powerful and could punch through tougher armor. By 2016, they were ready to start telling potential buyers about this new weapon. Looking further ahead, German military planners know the Leopard 2 will not last forever. The tanks first entered service in 1979, and they expect them to serve until around 2030. In May 2015, Germany and France agreed to work together on a completely new tank that would eventually replace both the German Leopard 2 and the French Leclerc. This new project, called the Main Ground Combat System, will not be ready right away. Until then, the Leopard 2 will keep getting updates. These include a new digital brain for the turret, better awareness systems to help crews understand what is happening around them, and active protection systems that can shoot down incoming rockets before they hit the tank. Protection against modern threats remains a top concern. In February 2021, Germany decided to buy the Trophy system from Israel, a special defense system that can detect and destroy anti-tank missiles in midair. The plan is to fit this system on 17 German Leopard 2A7A1 tanks by 2023, with lessons learned helping to improve the future Leopard 2A8 version. The Leopard 2 has changed a lot since its birth in the Cold War. Today's versions face very different threats, from hidden bombs in city streets to advanced missiles and drones. But with each upgrade, the tank has adapted. As warfare continues to change, so will this German tank. And when it finally retires around 2030, its successor will build on 5 decades of lessons learned in peace and war. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.